What do you do? What are you passionate about? All that.
What I do and who I am kind of entwined. I'm still very much a former athlete. I would say current washed up former, all in the same breath. But you and I were talking off camera about the dog, the inner person. Like there's a very much of a real fighter on the inside, but outside there, people they look at the poise and the polish. But a lot of people don't know, like the inner me is very different than the exterior me.
Yeah, you definitely kind of got that quiet tenor about you. You know what I mean? Like
it's a Leo thing, from what I understand. Like I'm not a huge zodiac guy, but it's kind of like you understand the beast, don't bother the beast, and he won't bother you.
Yeah, Yeah, it's funny. It's funny. Even around the holiday, I was talking to Melissa just about this week actually. I was like, I just feel like me personally, like I'm quiet and reserved, and I show a lot of masks. I mean, we live in masks. You know what I mean? And only a certain demographic is like worthy, not worthy, but like, because like in my heart, I don't feel like you would accept me if you saw who I really am. So only a few select people get to be able to see that. But that even communicates even what you've been doing, more transparency even on your own social media stuff, talking about the photography stuff and your story, and not just photography, but just like, because you're not a photographer, you're a photojournalist. You know what I mean? Like your art tells stories, but then you tell stories about the art. Can you kind of communicate about that a little bit, like what you've been doing, why you've been doing it, all that kind of good stuff?
I think some of it's age, and like it's a good purge. Some days it's good to get it out of my system because we see so much within my current role. You see a lot more highs than lows in terms of stories that are being told.
Yeah.
So typically you turn on the TV and you're hearing, this didn't go well, that didn't go well. But I'm thinking to myself, I was in the room, I saw the stuff that did go well.
Yeah.
Nobody's mentioning that. And, excuse me, and in terms of being an African-American black photographer, for all intents and purposes, a dude from the South, like it's not expected to see what I've been blessed to be able to become. Growing up, I grew up in the 80s, 90s, so I was in a place and at a time where there wasn't a huge investment in black boys in the community that I started out in. It wasn't until we moved to a small town called Highpoint, which was, like Chocolate City for us in the South.
Remember I stayed there a couple years back on, I don't know why. We went to the food line and came back to the crib. That's really all we did. But I'm with you.
Welcome to Highpoint.
Yeah.
But like when you grow up in a place like that, you learn to develop an imagination, you learn to develop, grit. One of my cousins said something recently. He said, you were one of the lucky ones who made it out. And that statement has always bothered me, not because he doesn't care or he's being, condescending or belittling, but he was literally talking about the mindset of what it took to survive somewhere else. But if I had not grown up there, I wouldn't be able to survive anywhere else. My grandfather lived here in Park Heights in Baltimore.
Okay.
So either way, it was, no matter what was going to happen, I was going to grow up in two worlds that required to have some grit.
Yeah.
So when we would visit here, I saw it. I saw the grit, the grunge, the grind, but I also understood I don't want to live in that particular space. But if I came back to that space, I want to be able to be someone who could add a degree of polish, some growth, some development, be able to invest.
Yeah.
So with life and, being transparent now on social media about my job and, the things that we do every day, all of those lessons and compass have been able to help me get to that point.
No, that's dope. I think there's two things that I see, and I mean, I feel like I'm getting to that point now in my space where I feel like I can kind of distinguish a little bit better, and I can see what you're passionate about. And the two things that I see the most are, one, the untold stories of people, like homeless, poverty. Like I can see the passion in the art there, but the other big thing is the kids and youth, football, basketball. Like I see how you, with the camera, like those are the two big things that I see. I feel like I see the deep passion at that point, which really makes sense with what you're saying right now. So stylistically, how has your style changed over the years, and what influenced those shifts?
Age, family, life, and life.
Yeah.
Life beats you up a little bit. You start to see things you couldn't see before.
Yeah.
I study a lot, study constantly. I live in a library. I'm always I'm in City Hall in the law library, reading, just flipping through, lunch or when we get little breaks in between. And I know sometimes they're looking like, are you trying to go to law school? But I'm really just looking at the blueprint of what was. I'm looking at, from an African American perspective, what was omitted, and then how do I reinsert things that were never there with what my responsibility and my role is within the city. And so having that opportunity and having that canvas all day long, I think it allows me to see things through my imagination that others may not have access to. Because a lot of what we do is just about access. It's not really about ability. Because there are plenty of photographers around who could do what I do. But it does take time to develop the eye, the emotions, the IQ. It takes some life stuff to beat you up a little bit to find out what that is.
Yeah.
And you have to be a constant student. So I think I'm a constant student. Like I'm always studying. Like you're not gonna outstudy me.
Yeah.
Not you, but you.
No. So it's funny, because you've pushed me there, unbeknownst to you. You pushed me in spaces like that. Like even with the video you said the other night, I was like, it took me a minute, and I watched it the whole thing through. But I had an iPad on one side and I'm a computer on the other because I'm having to Google stuff because I'm hearing stuff for the first time. I've never done a deep dive, but I did a deep dive in the Gordon Park stuff, and I was like, yo, this is special, and I was like, this is what JJ be talking about, and then to hear from, an actor, a film writer, and then I did more deep dive on their stuff, and it was just like, yo, this is the homework. It's not just about how to, this is a gym even for young guys, young photographers, or young ladies. It's not just about studying lighting. It's not just about studying your camera. It's not just about knowing, you can know your camera through and through. Mm-hmm. But if you can't read a room, if you can't feel the feels, if you ain't did your homework, if you don't know what, it ain't just about framing. It's about the mind and the heart. It's a holistic thing for real.
Yeah.
What keeps you locked in and inspired over the years? I know, and I know we talked, and I just gotta communicate this. I'm giggling because I appreciate I gave you the mic and then you put it on very well. It looks you did a phenomenal job, bro. I can tell. I can tell you know what you're doing.
Humble beginners TV.
But what keeps you? Because that's the other big part. I'm gonna fix this frame real quick.
Okay.
It'll look fine for a vertical, but it's gonna look horrible in
okay. For the people at home, it's okay to correct your own mistakes too.
Yes. Lost my little to make sure I ain't rubbing against it.
Yeah, that's why I put it just a little bit below.
Yeah, so the question is, what keeps you inspired after all these years? I feel like I'm in the toy phase of this stuff. I'm playing, I'm having fun. You know what I mean? But I'm sure that it's like everything else. It's a honeymoon phase, and then it kind of wears off. I saw the video you posted the other day with my man that we were just talking about. But it was day one, or your first year as a photographer, and you placing your stuff in the bag all nice, and it was yo, give me year 10, just toss it in the back, you know what I mean? So there's transitions, but like I said, I feel like I'm in the play space, in which I'm really, really enjoying it, for real. But I know things shift, things happen, things change, X, Y, Z. What keeps you locked in? What keeps you inspired? What has kept you inspired?
It's a number of things for me, and I've very seldom even talked about this, and never told it publicly. But when my mom died, she left my sister and I $10,000 a piece. That $10,000, I took that and purchased my first full bag of camera gear. So I don't think I'll ever not be inspired as a result of the reason why I was able to make the real investment in what it is that I believe in. I remember being in college and I was on the set of Dawson's Creek, and I was probably one of two black kids who went down on the set every week while they were filming. And I remember seeing guys on the dolly, and you have your grips and everybody, because I was thinking documentary film at the time.
Yeah.
I was very much a huge Spike Lee fan, still am. So in the spirit of that, I was always looking at the fine details. You know, how were things taped down? What type of tape did they use? Why did they use certain colors? So I'm really anal about those things now at work, and I probably drive everybody crazy. But when I think about the things that drive me, the things that keep me going, it's really about how I got to be able to do what I was doing. It was literally someone else's sacrifice. And unfortunately, my mom was one of those people who made the ultimate sacrifice, but I also saw my dad get up every day. This dude has like, trying to think, 7.5 fingers. He lost his fingers in a machine accident at work just before I was born. And when I think about all of the things that he went through, you know, day to day, never complained, working on cars with nubs, I'm like, how does this dude do this? Like, how do you grab a wrench with, like, you know, no fingers? But he never made excuses. So when I go to work every day, when I see those things and you battle through your own things, I don't really need a lot to motivate me, because I saw other people make the ultimate sacrifices in ways where you hear about it on TV, but when you go through it yourself, it's a little different ballgame.
It's crazy, yo. Like, I appreciate that. Like, similar. And I'm gonna take a picture. That's what got a little choked up just now. I'm gonna send a picture when I get home. Same thing for me. My grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
My grandmother passed, left me a couple dollars, and that was my first initial financial investment into camera stuff. She left me a Canon. I think it was 80D. I got this at the crib right this second, and it's a little. I got to bring it here, put it on my little shelf. But she did the cameras because she loved cruises. So she was just, and she liked gadgets and gizmos, and the song gadgets and gizmos. But like, that was a similar situation that really got the thing started. So that's crazy to hear.
We never talked about that part ever, y'all. So I didn't know that about him. He didn't know that about me. So you know,
that's crazy, yo. That's really crazy. Biggest challenge in your career? How'd you overcome it?
I can't tell you, because it's a part of my book.
Okay.
It hasn't come out yet. But I would say the biggest challenge in my career was my very first week in the mayor's office. My very first week. And I didn't question my ability, but I did have a moment saying, do I really want to do this? The pace was bananas. I came in at a time where everything had just, you know, I think it was the beginning of session. COVID was starting to lift. So people were starting to come back outside. Anxiety was high. Folks were still losing their minds. You know, the mayor, the police commissioners, state's attorneys, everybody was trying to figure out how do we fix the murder rate. Nobody believed in his crime plan. Like, I was like, am I gonna have a job after next week?
Yeah.
Because I'm leaving the Afro, coming to this. And I was rocking out at the Afro. Like, we were having a good time. You know, they were sending me on some sweet assignments, and I was just enjoying it. And so for anybody that ever wants to work at a small newspaper, it's a great idea.
Yeah.
Just, you know, as a nugget for growth and development. But when I got there, my first week, bro, I was like, I don't know. I was like, I don't know. Any amount of money is worth this kind of stress.
Yeah.
But I said, you know, stick it out, give it 6 months and see where it lands, see how you feel in 6 months. And I gave it 6. But the thing that was the most important for me was a conversation that I had with the mayor. And I can share this. And one of the things that he said to me, and I asked him, I said, what do you need the most from me? He said, we have to trust each other really quickly, because everything you see and everything we do, we're going to constantly make history. And I knew that was a thing coming in, because, you know, obviously being alpha men, we see Black history all the time.
Yeah.
We're a part of Black history every day, or every time we step into a room with brothers. But to be the one responsible for putting it in a capsule for everybody is a very different burden than walking into the room inspiring people to do it.
Yeah.
And so now that responsibility is mine all day, every day, or I'm on call to be ready for it 24 hours a day, you know, it's a different mindset. It's a different level. It's a different level of selflessness.
Yeah.
And you got to give up a part of you in order to be able to accomplish something else. So that was probably the biggest challenge coming into it, was owning the fact that, yeah, bruh, you're the chief storyteller now, and you got to live it and you got to own it. So it took me some time to find my voice in that responsibility, but you know, I found my footing, and I have a lot of freedom to really just do what I do.
Yeah. Yeah, we talked about it before, but like, I feel that there's a side of folk that, like, yeah, I just take pictures, and then there's a side of folk that understand, like, I got a sticker in my locker over there that says my superpower is I have the ability to freeze time. But it's that, and then it's also communicating to the greater area. Like Baltimore has been through so much. I've been here for 8 years now. 2016, yeah. Been here for 8 years now, and I've seen so much up and down. You know what I mean? And I was as hopeful as I was with every other mayor when Mayor Scott was coming in. But what do they say? Cautiously optimistic. But to see who he was online in picture form or on video form, and like some of the stuff that you did, the humanization of him. That's what I was talking to, your boy about. Like, yo, you look stiff. I got your back. Let me help you not look stiff. But just to be able to show the playful nature, the serious nature, the business-minded nature, like you can communicate that, but we're a visual people. Like we process through TV, through media, through digital arts. Like, so to be able to do that is huge, man. Like, and you've been doing that well, bro.
It was important to me to not. It wasn't just for him. I'm be totally transparent with that. Like, I feel that way about everybody that I meet, but specifically as Black politicians, Black leaders, community organizers, pastors, all of the things, all of the people. Like, I've always felt a sense of responsibility in that space when I'm shooting. Like, I need for people to know who you are in terms of your character.
Yeah.
And what I realized quickly was the world sees those people through how I see it and how I feel in that moment and how I'm interpreting it. So if I'm not if my fingers aren't moving as if I'm a musician, like you see a bass player and he's in it, and when they're rolling over strings or when they're gliding over strings, very different sound.
Yeah.
So in my head, it's kind of like, I'm hearing a certain soundtrack. There's a certain method, where I'm manually moving through the buttons.
Yeah.
I may be walking up to a scene somewhere, and as I'm walking, I'm, okay, I need to go be at 1,000, okay, 2.8. I'm going through the number scenario. And this is my starting point. Okay, ISO 100, do I want to be at 400? Like, I'm going through that checklist.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at, where's the sun? Okay, it's 2 o'clock. It's going to be over here by the time this press conference is over. So I'm forcing myself to go through that checklist, but as I'm doing it, I'm looking at the skin tone of whoever the person is standing up there talking. It may be somebody who looks like that cup, and then it may be somebody who looks like this table. What's the happy medium between that? And then how am I sharing their personality to the rest of the world?
Yeah.
So it's so many different steps as you go into it that I never accounted for. So when I get home at the end of the day, I'm exhausted.
Yeah, because your brain has been you've been doing man.
All day.
Because you said a couple years ago, you was like, yo, like, when I walk in my door in the morning, like, I know I'm gonna be shooting this ISO, this shutter speed, this f-stop. Like, I was like, and that's when I first kind of got into it. I'm still playing in like AV and automatic. Why this is kept? I'm like, boy, I'm just trying to hit the shutter button. I'm just trying to flick. Like, I don't know what you talking about. But now, give me down the space that I'm at now. Like, that's interesting. That's helpful to hear because, like, I feel like I start with the framing, like with the what's going on, because it's I'm typically you get some nice backdrops. You know what I mean? As somewhere on my level, Doc, I'll be getting the hole in the wall stuff, Doc, and I love it. I respect it. Yeah, like it's the grind and the hustle, but like I be looking like, boy, I don't know where we're in an all white room, just white walls, white ceiling, white floor. But then I asked you about it, and you was like, yo, try this. Did you look at this? I was like, see, this is where, but like. What's a piece of, because for me, like, and I'll ask you kind of what your thing is, but for me it's movies. I try to find like deeply cinematic movies or TV shows have like just the framing and stuff is crazy. You know what I mean? Like where like the DP on set was like was a beast for real. That's why I like to lean there personally. But like, where do you kind of get some of your like creative inspiration from on that side?
Excuse me. I trust my instincts a lot. Excuse me, sinuses. But when I, in terms of trusting my instincts, I look at I'm using all of my senses, believe it or not. You know, what does it smell like? Okay, how do I get it to translate? How do I feel? You know, if I'm shooting in a room where the bass is heavy and, you know, in between that beat, autofocus doesn't like bass. So in between the downbeat, it's like, okay, pop, pop, pop. Okay,
That's crazy.
You know, so I'm constantly counting what's happening in between. Okay, well, what am I hearing? Is it too loud? So how do I turn it down for the audience visually?
Yeah.
So it's a whole nother next level nerd thing going on internally while I'm shooting. And I don't even know if that answers the question, but there's a different process that's happening. You know, I'm digging deeper than you probably would assume people would. But I do go back and listen to Melvin Van Peebles. I do go back and study the Gordon Parks. I listen to Ozzie Davis. I listen to all the people who got us to this point.
Yeah.
I listen to the people who open the doors and constantly and consistently keep the doors open.
Yeah.
One of my mentors, who's an alpha, he was responsible for negotiating the release of Nelson Mandela and helping put out the fire of the Woolworth sit-ins.
Really?
And in his book, he talks about going into the Woolworth office and requesting a meeting with the CEO at the time when black men weren't even allowed to walk in the front door. And he told him, hey, I can fix this. And in having a plan to fix this, the revenue shares of, hey, if you write a check, if you put this fire out, you also have to write a check to go to these community organizations as well that feed starving families. So cinematically, in my head, I'm constantly looking at how does this water run downhill after I take the shot? Who benefits from what happens? So hearing those lessons from other people, studying the conversations, I'm also looking at the greater picture as well. So it's not just about me as a photographer. I'm also thinking community service, uplift, all the things that, you know, we know and believe in. And also now at this stage, learning how to look at the generational wealth side, which I feel like at times I'm a little late on, because I was so mission and purpose driven that I negated the fact of that I still needed to have some fiscal awareness it's okay to be a rich photographer. You don't have to be the poor starving artist. And a lot of times people talk about you have to be the starving artist, but you know, these young kids who are coming through now, yo, cash at me $35 and I come shoot your football game. Well, these kids done shot 9 football games in one day. Not that they're shooting for $35, that's just the baseline number I was using. Some of them, you know, hey, I'm getting $250 a pop. Well, I shot 10 games a day. It's not a bad day for a kid with no job.
Yo, the level of hustle that I'm seeing, like these young guys come in, is different.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I started a video production agency 2 years ago, and I'm looking at the packages, and I'm like, I mean, we're starting pretty high, like, I mean, baseline what was, but like, so I'm starting scrolling on Instagram, and this is a young dude, about 18 years old, like, yeah, boom. He's on speakerphone with a client, right? All right, boom. So like, yeah, I can provide. Yeah, I mean, I get you 10 reels a month and 35 edited pictures a month. I can come out and do one shoot day, and I'll do that once a month, and I get you consistent content, edit them, send them over, da da da. You could do $750 a month. We'll make that happen. But at the time, like for what that was, I'm talking like, I was like 35 at the time, for real. And which might have been the reason why we didn't get a lot of bites. But then you're also trying to justify
why you just bought $20,000 worth of gear?
Bro, 4,000 body,
right.
4,000 lens, 3 times over. Like, you know what I mean? Like 5,000 in the summer guard. Shoot, the dang on camera bag I just bought was $239. The bag to put this stuff in cost me. So I'm just like, I'm trying to figure out where that balance is. But like, can you talk even with the passion with profitability? Like, kind of talk that, because the reason why I asked that is because now I'm now that hungry young boy. Like I put myself in them shoes. I'm doing DC for 150, 200. I ain't too proud to say it, bro. Because I'm getting more. That's why I've been sending you so many different shoots from so many different things. Cause y'all was like, y'all can afford $250. I can afford $300.
Yeah.
And what happens with me? And they hit me like, yo, well, I'll tell you that part on the side. But that's why for me, I'm getting more opportunities. I'm getting more practice. I'm in like, I thought I loved low light until I was in the basement. And then you got a spot where you just got some one light in the whole room.
That 4 or 5.
And then I'm like, yo, I love outdoor shoots until you get me, until it's raining or until it's cold or until you're in a situation and your camera is like literally stalling and freezing on you. So like, it helped me figure out who I was, what I love, what I enjoy. And in the meantime, hey, listen, $300 10 times in a weekend ain't bad. Now it's a little bit of a hustle, but yeah.
Well, I'm a minimalist.
Okay.
Now, for sure. I got 2 bodies, probably 10 batteries, 4 lenses in my bag.
Okay. I told you I'm still on the toy side.
Dual camera strap.
I'm tell you, I gotta show you this real quick.